Alrighty, here we are, episode 25 of the Native Overstayer podcast, and it is almost unbelievable to me that we have the young, powerful and legendary All Black flanker, Michael Jones, in our presence. I've been a big fan of the young man since 1987, when you burst on the scene as a very shy, humble Samoan boy, and amongst all those hardened All Black players back in those days. So thank you very much, sir, for coming in. It really is an honour.
Thank you. Oh, Patrick, thank you, and Jack. You're too kind. If I'm young, you must be like a baby, So too kind. But no, my pleasure to be here, and we love your work, and I just thank you for your support, because I know you and the family have been a big supporter, and you've been so good to me and my family. So it's just an honour to be here, bro. So thank you.
Thank you. What are you up to these days?
Well, I'm still. I mean, a lot of my time is in the community still. So it's a privilege to, and I think that's one of the gifts that rugby has given. It gives you a platform to influence, and it's something I've been very mindful to steward. And so a lot of my time is still in the community, working with our rangatahi. And so we've got our school out south, and we set that up 5 years ago, and it's going really well. We've got good principals. We've got a good board, so I don't have to worry about that too much more at the moment. And our village, our other trust, that really has been doing a lot of good mahi for the last 20 years, and my wife runs that, and we're really busy at the moment, apart from our other work with youth and whānau order and mentoring. We've been running a food bank, and particularly through COVID-19, it's been really, really busy. So that's sort of my voluntary stuff, and I'm on the board of New Zealand Rugby as a director, and so that's a privilege, but it's busy. But I have to pay the bills, so I do work. I've got a full-time job in town, and I'm just involved with Meads and shipping, and we have ships that go into the Pacific, and I really enjoy that because it keeps me connected into the region. We do a lot of work with the governments and other stakeholders, and I really love that too. So I'm very privileged to have a finger in what's happening up in the Pacific, and very much a foot in what's happening here back home, and particularly with our Pacifica people, communities, and particularly our youth.
You got your name as a rugby player, and that name is synonymous worldwide. But what I admire you most about it is what you did after your career, and what you did in our communities and helping our people out. I mean, that's real testament to your beliefs, and also the man that you are. The other thing that I admire was your Christian beliefs. How you would have missed out on the 95 World Cup because of that? And that was it. You said, no, I'm not playing on Sundays.
91 as well, no?
No, 91, he scored the first try in
playoffs.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah,
is that right?
The semi-final was on a Sunday.
Wow.
Wow. But thank you. So I suppose when I think about my own journey, particularly as a rugby player, but you're very much shaped by the people around you and your upbringing. And I'm very grateful, being born here in West Auckland. I was raised by my mother. My father passed away when I was very young. I was only 4 years old, so we were in a typical Pacifica Samoan household out west in the 70s, which there weren't many actually Samoan families out there. But what I do remember is, even though obviously really missed having a dad around, but I absolutely was so grateful that I had a lot of love around me and support, but not just my mum and my siblings, but my uncles and aunties and cousins. So there was about 12 of us living in this little home out in West Auckland, and so that love and that Christian foundation, because my mum was a very, very staunch and strong woman of faith, and she very much raised us on the importance of our personal relationship with Christ, and all that meant. And so that was a big foundation for us. And I think because of that, it really helped me get through my formative years into my teenage years. I mean, you still make a lot of mistakes, but I was able to probably stay focused enough and stay with the right crowd and make the right decisions to then marry obviously, God had given me a gift, and I've always believed that God's gift to me is my potential. My gift back to God is what I do with that potential. And so to marry that with the good people and the village around me, I'm a true believer that it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm a product of that. I'm a living testament to the power of the village to show love and support, and to awhia a young man to fulfill their God-given potential. So I'm very grateful, and I suppose because of that, it shapes the way you think and the way you behave, and right through your career. Yes, I was privileged to have a long career, sort of 15 odd seasons for Auckland and maybe 12 or 13 for the All Blacks. But at the end of that, I was very mindful, and it was a great journey, a great chapter in my life. But I think the real chapter really started for me after, in the sense that the greatest gift that rugby gave me was a platform to be I suppose to steward the gift and the influence.
Yes.
Because leadership is influence, and I suppose with that leadership you're able to influence.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've just been really careful to tend to and nurture and steward. And then I just find that as you just faithful and diligent in the little things, then it's a bit like sport and rugby. If you're faithful in the little things, you'll get the big things.
Yeah.
As a principle of life. And so I've just done that with the work post rugby,
Yes.
particularly in our community. And I've just found that you get and particularly for Pacifica people, our lot in society, they often talk about us as the long brown tail, Māori and Pacific. And, we were brought up, like you both, to be the head and not the tail.
Yeah.
So I think whilst we have breath as leaders, and I know you feel the same, as how do we move our people from the tail towards the head, and one day be the head? Why not?
Why not?
So that's a big part of my motivation and desire and passion. And so that continually drives us to, I suppose, continue to serve and do what we can to be the change and be an influencer that can, be part of the solution. I mean, we've only got, this part of our life to live, and you just want to do the best with that, and hopefully in that sort of your contribution can be part of the greater impact of other like-minded people and like-hearted people.
When we had Ronnie on, he spoke about the lack of brown faces in the rugby union, and now we've got three very notable and inspirational people. We've got yourself, we've got Ronnie, and we've got Vania Wolfgram. And I was telling Vania that's a great triangle. That's a pretty powerful triangle.
She's amazing.
A lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of empathy, and also a lot of morals. The moral compass for you three, I believe, is pointed in the right direction to help our people that are involved. And there's a lot of people involved in our rugby game, and sometimes they're not looked after as well as they could be, right?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That I'm grateful that to have Wahine Toa and Vanya there, and Ronnie's role is so critical too. So that's sort of all about pioneering stuff for us. I felt very privileged to be the first Pacifica, I suppose, trustee or director on New Zealand Rugby. We had BG as the president.
Right.
You've got Ronnie as the president of Auckland.
Yes.
And we're starting to get a sprinkling of Pacifica people starting to influence the governance and the leadership of our game, because we make such a huge contribution at player level, volunteers, managers, coaches, in every strand of our great game across the ecosystem. We're there, but we're just not there at the very top.
Yes.
And that's something we have to fight for, and we've got to keep driving for and have an aspiration to. We've got to build our own capacity and capability around sort of directors and governance. And that's something that's an ongoing sort of challenge for us. But at the same time, we've got to challenge the things that are holding us back, that are inherently in institutional sort of settings and mainstream settings. So whether that's health or education, or it's very much the same in sport as well. But we're lagging. But we're hoping to start to get some momentum and then start to fast track that shift from sort of not being at the table. Because if we are not at the table, it's very difficult to challenge and influence and bring that cultural lens and that frame, and also it's a gift to mainstream, and it's a gift to rugby, I believe, when we can bring our passion and our energy and our perspectives and the things that are important to us to that sort of decision-making table.
do you ever see yourself sort of, I used to running the same thing just about sort of governance at the international level, IRB, sort of being part of those sort of discussions and at that particular table, making those bigger decisions that influence rugby worldwide, because our players obviously get to play overseas and travel overseas and represent other countries as well, but is that something you'll be looking long term as well?
Yeah, I think you've got to always have aspiration to where you can sort of continue to build that influence and exert that influence. So that's an obvious place. It's good to see that we have a Fijian rugby union delegate there now. Samoa gets a vote there now. Oceania gets a vote with Fiji, but it's still probably not as democratic as you see in football, where FIFA everybody has a vote and everyone gets the same sort of resourcing.
Yes.
So there's an opportunity, I think, to keep pushing that. But there's some gains being made and we're starting to break through. But I think, again, it's a bit like what we're having to try and mobilise and do here. We've got to do it at the bigger table.
Eventually get there, yeah.
Would you want that responsibility?
I think
because you've got a family, you're supporting your club.
Yeah, I think obviously if I felt, I could manage it, absolutely. I mean, leadership it's a strange thing because often things come your way and it's not like you strive for it or you sort of have in a frame of mind where you've got to pursue stuff, but it tends to come to you if you just serve and are diligent in that service. So if it came my way, I think I'd just have to assess at the time, is it going to undermine the quality of my life with my family and my wife, and then make that decision. But at the same time, I'm very fortunate my wife has supported me in all these decisions because I think she knows the passion I have and the importance of having our people at those tables. So I think it would be, to answer that question, probably I'll just have to determine at that time, can I do this and if I'm ready, but not to be when you see a window like that, it's very important to take it if the opportunity comes.
Vania said was along the same sort of lines with her commentating. She said, I'm not a commentator, I never wanted to be a commentator, but the opportunity came her way and she thought about the young ones, the young girls who are hearing her voice, a brown voice, doing commentating on a major platform, Sky TV. So even though she didn't want to do it, she said, I'm going to do it for a bigger reason than just myself.
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of things that we're called to do are sometimes are pioneering and groundbreaking. And again, if you have that sense that if you don't do this and you don't, go for it and take that opportunity by the scruff of the neck, you're letting down the people who are dependent on you. It's almost like a burden you can hold in a good way. You've got a burden to be part of the. If you're really passionate about change and seeing transformation and empowerment, then you've got to be sometimes at the really pointy edge of that and lead that even. So you've just it's really important that you have that mindset that you're doing this on behalf of your community, your people, your family, the next generation in particular.
To give them some inspiration and the ability to see that if you really want to do something and you work hard, you can actually get there, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a message that as parents we love to give our kids, and it's it's a message I've always I was given, and it's a message that I take out to any setting I'm involved in, particularly young people. Don't miss an opportunity to encourage and inspire, to challenge. Don't miss an opportunity to share your story, because I think the story, we all have a powerful story, and as Pacific cultures, we are storytellers too, and I know that our rangatahi love to hear your story, and it's the same kind of thing when I first read about BG and when I first saw him, and then when I first met him and when I first heard him, it just inspired me so much to want to be like him.
Really? Wow. BG was the trailblazer really for our Pacific rugby, wasn't he? I mean, he put us on the map.
He's amazing. He's so inspirational. And again, growing up in the 70s here in Auckland and Aotearoa, we just didn't have those superheroes out there on TV or even in books or magazines, whatever. But he was there. There was the Solomon brothers, who were All Blacks in the 50s, I think it was, or 30s.
Is that right?
Yes,
Who were they?
the Solomon brothers.
Solomon Brothers.
Yeah, they were Samoan, and I think actually Josh Kronfeld's
Yep.
family. Yeah, so there's all these connections, and then there was Arthur Jennings, who was a Fijian,
Right.
and then you had in sports, the Monty Beethams and Peter Maivia,
Sure.
and even in netball, that was coming through. Out there's Rita Fatialofa was coming through, but definitely for me, BG in the 70s really was, I suppose, that iconic Pacifica role model that inspired a generation of Pacifica youth, and probably Māori and every Kiwi. But for us, he was ours. He belonged to us. Couldn't believe that he was this, Samoan, part Cook Islander, probably something else.
Quietly spoken.
Modest, handsome, debonair, could play the guitar, and he was my mother, being big on education, loved the fact that he was a lawyer. So I think there was so many. We've just been privileged to have someone like that. And when you hear some of the stories, even about what he had to endure in South Africa as a coloured, it's mind-boggling. And yet here we are now enjoying, I suppose, the fruits of the ground that BG broke way back in. No, we're talking 50 years ago. You weren't even born. You too.
He was. I was. So was BG a reason why you went to university as well? I mean,
I think it encouraged me, but I think there was always going to be a course because of my mother being a teacher. Education was always big in our household. But I think no doubt, to think that he could be an All Black and still do all this and everything else. That was a real inspiration for us and many others.
That's so true. The BG story is one that this generation aren't really aware of. His Pacific story is it's
amazing.
One.
Yeah.
Is it the Eden Park test in the water that inspires you?
Well, I was inspired earlier. I mean, that was something that always stands out. Because I was still young. I'm old enough to have watched black and white BG in 1970, sidestepping through half the South Africans, and this massive sidestep, those massive thighs, and he was just like dancing and like a ballerina through these South Africans, and they probably thought, who the heck is this kid? And then he was 19, 20 maybe, and then he went around. I don't know if you've seen that famous footage. You've got through, and then he goes and has the audacity to run around and put the ball over the post.
And Colin Meads don't put the bloody ball down.
And he was just like, that black hair flying. I just thought, man, that DNA he's got as a Pacifica. There's a bit of that flair and just that something about that intuition. That knack, and it's a beautiful thing.
What about the statue at Eden Park?
That's.
How was that? Wow.
I always tend to go the other way. I just find it hard to. I mean, I feel very privileged. I do recognise that it's very much a symbol. While they captured that moment of their first World Cup, it's very much it's a acknowledgement, and it's I suppose a celebration of that team, that 87 team,
and it just happened to be you.
And it just happened to be me. Was in the right place at the right time to score that try, and it was the first try. And I suppose being a bit, as we did being basketball, as we tended to dive, and probably it was captured in a photograph, and it was probably good enough to be a statue. But I'd like to think that it's really more about the celebration of that 87 team and what we achieved. And right there at Eden Park. I mean, it was special for me because it was my first World Cup. It was my first Test match as an All Black. It was the first World Cup. We were playing in Auckland at Eden Park. The Field of Dreams, where I dreamt that I was BG winning a World Cup. And there I was able to score my first try. But it was also special because it's funny. I do remember, you get selected, and that's amazing because you're wearing the black jersey. And the changing shed, and just before we ran out, I'll never forget Gary Whitten, who was one of the sort of senior pros. He was still pretty young, but I remember he came up to me and said, Michael, all the best, go out there, just play your game, it's going to go fast. But we have a saying in the All Blacks, if you score a try in your first game, you'll make a great All Black. So I was like, oh great, thanks, G-Dub. I'm already I'm already over nervous and no pressure. And but I kept that in my mind, and thankfully we were playing Italy, and Italy were very good. And I just happened to be, I'll never forget it. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to get that inside pass from Foxy.
Yeah.
And then I just had to didn't have to do much, just sort of run a few meters and dive. So, but I got that try, and I thought, rugby in New Zealand was at a crossroads in a way, and it was wonderful to think that we were able to turn that around and bring the country with us and mend a lot of our sort of maybe not sour wounds, but wounds that were a bit festering. And we were able to, to bring the country with us. And again, if I was able to be part of, as a Pacific Islander, to sort of to win or to inspire young Pacific people in the same way that Ari does it now, and Inga did it then, and Tana, so Kiwi. So there's now, there's so many of these young Pacific men and women who are doing great things out there, and I think there was a generation of us who were very much at sort of the sort of BG had broken the glass window, and then we had to sort of pick up the baton and then try and spread that, spread that, I suppose, that good news that we could do this and that we could make it and we could be all that we ever wanted to be here in Aotearoa, and if we wanted to.
For a shy Pacific Island Samoan man, a young boy, going into a team full of those superstars, how did you survive in there? I mean, like you said, they want you to prove that you should be there, right? And you're pretty quiet. You're not going to yell and shout at them, and you're not going to. So it was all actions from you, wasn't it?
Yeah, we always raised to be seen and not heard anyway. Yes. That's our culture. So you go into that setting and you don't look at anyone. You're shy. You don't like a quiet mouse. You just that's just the way you are. And I was very much that, and probably even more so. And when I think of the boys, they tell me how shy I was and how reserved, and they sort of marvel that I've come quite a way since then, obviously, but it was intimidating. And being I suppose a mummy's boy too, I was the youngest, and I was very much sheltered upbringing. We had family, uncles and aunties, big cousins, older brothers, sisters, the church. It was actually quite a sheltered upbringing, and then to have to thrust myself out of that into this world that was, you're with the All Blacks,
the egos and the hard men, right?
All of that, it was just
the drinking.
Yep, the drinking, that whole world. It was an eye opener, and it was challenging. Probably more for me because I just had to get out of my comfort zone, and I had to quickly build social skills and learn how do I engage with these guys, because I'm not used to it. I wasn't brought up, even out in West Auckland, we just within that world, it was so foreign. But I just had to grow up really quickly, and in retrospect, it was really good for me because it shaped my character really quickly. I had to grow up if I wanted to be part of this dream. This was my dream. You had to just. But I definitely knew my place, and I think they appreciated that. I just had to prove myself out on the field at training, and my lifestyle. They're always watching you. You can't be late. You can't drop a ball at training. You can't talk out of turn. It was very hierarchical. It was very structured. But that didn't bother me in the sense that it was hierarchical, because we're sort of raised that way in our culture. So we know how to respect authority. We know how to respect the elders. We know how to respect leaders. So that part it didn't bother me, but it was just getting out of my comfort zone around this new world and new people, and sort of a non-Pacific setting.
You said it built your character, but it never broke your character. It's not like you got into that environment and said, oh man, I'm going to have to drink with these guys to get in with them. I'm going to have to start cursing and using foul language and start doing the yahooing and stuff. You just stayed as you were.
I think, I think I'm glad, I'm very grateful my faith was strong enough as a young man. I mean, we're not perfect, but I had enough sort of backbone and understanding that what was right and wrong, to sort of try and stay on a bit of a more straight and narrow road. And yes, it wasn't always easy, but I think what I found is as I did that, the people around me, the boys respected you.
Yeah.
I think they didn't mind you saying that you don't play on Sunday or you're a Christian, as long as you walk the talk.
Yeah.
But I think if I was hypocritical, if I let that down, they would have really, I would have been, I'd been spat out the back really.
Back of a ruck.
Yeah.
To do.
You got it.
Dance up and down your
Exactly.
Backs.
But thankfully, I'm just grateful that I had enough, my upbringing and sort of exposure to my faith and strength of faith to just, continue to love my brothers because they're my family. And I respected them, come what may, they respected me. Also had a lot of people praying for me. My mum was a very fervent prayer warrior type lady, so I know that really helped me too. Didn't always get it right, but enough times, enough of a sense of what was right and wrong to stay down that road.
So Michael, just everyone remembers those tries that you scored in World Cups and diving over the line, but a lot of us also remember those knee injuries that you faced. Against Argentina, that was a car wreck they basically compared it to. But what was it like to sort of overcome those injuries and move forward with your career?
In retrospect, again, and it's sort of easy enough to say now, but it was tough at the time. But I can see that, again, it really was a period in my life that was obviously very challenging, but it really shaped my career and my character, I'll never forget, things were going well for me. I'd just been in the All Blacks for 2 years. I was living the dream, and I'd made it in 87, and we were in that wonderful All Black team that I think hadn't lost a game for 2 or 3 years, 87, 88, 89.
Yep.
We might have had a draw somewhere along the line, maybe with Australia.
Yeah.
So I was just very much on the tip of that wave and still young. And then, it's amazing how life and rugby is like that split second. Probably did the wrong thing, tried to kick a ball forward when I probably should have been a good loose forward and dived on it. And then that big ugly Argentinian, I'll never forget his ugly face, but in the end it's funny, he became a friend of mine because he felt so bad after that. But hit me in the wrong place, and it was all the ligaments got smashed, and everything was pretty munted. I still remember getting flown up to Auckland, going straight to hospital, and Dr. Titchens, Barry Titchens, Gordon's cousin, Dr. Barry Titchens, thankfully one of the best orthopedic surgeons, and was sort of ahead of his time. But he was typical of all doctors, wasn't going to, give me false hope. And he pretty much said, Michael, you've ruptured all your ligaments in that knee. The cruciates are gone. I'll do my best, but I can't promise it's, where you're going to end up type thing, So I remember waking up the next morning after the operation, and the newspapers were, Paul Michael Jones, thanks for the memories, sort of that's the end of him, and even people around you. But obviously my family and that, my mum was constantly there, praying for me and praying for the doctors and praying for the nurses, as she does. And but that point in my life as a young sort of 24-year-old, I was at a crossroad really, and I could have accepted what even the doctor said. I mean, it was successful, the operation, but again, there was no, I suppose, reassurance or assurance that I could never get back on the rugby field even. So I had to choose at that point. I could either accept what the diagnosis or prognosis at that crossroad, and sort of cruise through life, or else I could make a decision right there on that moment that I'm going to do everything I can to get back and pursue that dream and live out my life to my fullest. And obviously I went down that road, and I'm grateful I did, but it was a tough one. Sort of 2 years or 18 months of rehab, and it was it was tough. I mean, sometimes you even doubt yourself, and I'm just grateful that at the end of that I did manage to get back on the rugby field. I remember playing for Auckland C. I was first. It was a Henderson High School versus the Barbarians, and I was able to play my first sort of game after I'd done enough to strengthen my knee. And then the next week I played for Auckland C, and then the next week I was picked for Auckland B, and then next week I was playing for the Auckland team back at Eden Park, and we were playing Southland, I think.
Oh,
You scored under the post.
Yes, yeah,
I
I
was
was
so
remember that,
relieved.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and Terry Wright gave me an inside
Yeah.
pass. I just
Oh,
took
nice.
a shortcut, and
Yeah.
but you know, the journey to get to there was unbelievable in terms of challenging mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that I had good people around me. But it shaped me to the point where, even though I was never probably physically the same as I was pre that, I mean, I got back on the field, I lost a bit of pace and a bit of agility, and then I started getting injuries on other places because
Yeah.
you're always having to
Yeah.
keep the balance, and
Compensation.
things will never be exactly the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But that aside, I'm so grateful for what became of me as a person.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of not only my faith levels, but I suppose my courage and my strength and my character and my fortitude, all of those resiliency things.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I hadn't have gone through that, I would never have sort of evolved into that type of person.
Yes.
Mentally a lot tougher. So then I was able to play another sort of 9 seasons,
Yeah,
and I'm
wow.
not sure if I could have, even though I didn't have the same physical prowess, mentally, spiritually,
Yes.
and I suppose psychologically, I was a lot stronger and better for it.
Yeah.
But you also reinvented your position, right? You,
Had to
you went from a
reinvent
7 to a
myself.
6
Yep,
or
had
an
to
8.
do that. I mean, there was a lot of good young kids coming on the scene. I mean, you think of
Yeah.
Andrew Blowers and
Yes,
Josh
yes,
Crawford
yes,
and
yes.
Dylan Meek and all these,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, Mark Carter. I mean, the list goes on, and so I think it was a natural thing because maybe an opening came up. I remember AJ Whitten sort of was at the end of his career and he sort of moved on, and there was the 6th position. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sort of. I'd already started training really hard with Don Oliver, who was a great friend
Nice.
out in West
Oh, wow.
Auckland,
Yes.
and he'd already started to explain to me the importance of building sort of the inner core.
Yes.
And so I did a lot of that work with him, with Ronnie and Inga, and there was a few of us, and our strength levels went to another level. So it just happened to be the summer that we were heading into, you know, maybe that I was going to have to become a number 6. And because I wasn't the tallest 6, I still had enough, I suppose, power to height ratio or strength ratio, weight ratio to fill that role. And it suited me well because I knew all the lines as a
Yeah.
loose forward. I knew where 7 was going. I had played 8.
Yeah.
So I knew where he was going, and I just needed to sort of fine-tune my own lines and my role, and it was fun. I loved it,
Well, you
and then
loved
it allowed me to play with, you know, Zinni and AB, and you know, Mark Carter was still playing good rugby,
Yeah.
and then you know, it gave me probably 3 more years, I'd say, at the very top
Yes.
of my career,
Wow.
sort of 96, 97,
Yeah.
and 98, and 99 I finished, so maybe 4
Came
years.
along and yeah.
So I finished my career at Eden Park, and that was wonderful, playing for
Yeah.
Auckland, where I started.
Yeah.
And so if I hadn't have made that transition, hadn't have learnt all those lessons, and probably had enough, I suppose, inner strength to do that, I would have probably had to finish my rugby maybe 3 or 4 years earlier.
Yeah. Is it true? I heard a story. You'd run to training from Henderson to Eden Park, and then after training you'd run home. Was that right?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days when we first made it, I didn't have a car,
Wow.
so we sometimes had to do that.
Yeah.
Then Mike Brookhoughton would start giving me a ride, and his Holden Broman, I thought, oh, this is good. But yeah, when I first started, that's what I was doing. But I think I was just naturally fit too, because I didn't smoke, didn't drink too, and had good people around me to support me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was very, very fit as a young man. I think my injuries made me have to just do a different style of training, and this is where Don Oliver was revolutionary for me, because he came at the right time. I still remember I just hurt my knee. He was living out west too, and had those gyms out west. I heard a knock on the door. He comes up. He goes, "I don't want you to sit here much longer. I know you've just had this injury, but I've got a plan to get you back on the field.
Wow.
Just trust me."
Yeah.
And I just journeyed with him, and you know, he just nurtured me back, walked with me, and then thankfully Ronnie and Inga were there to support me too, and I came back really strong actually.
Yeah.
And really fit.
Have you seen The Last Dance?
I haven't.
You haven't?
Started watching that. That's
It's
pretty good.
It's funny. It's
Yeah.
funny because in
Amazing.
those days there was Magic Johnson, there was
Yes.
Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
there was Michael Jordan, and then there was Michael Jones. It was MJ.
It's definitely the Michael.
But
Oliver.
the reason why I bring up The Last Dance was because of Michael Jordan and his attitude.
Yeah.
And it sounds very similar to
Yes.
Fitzpatrick and Zinzi.
Yeah.
Where if
Absolutely.
you're not at that level, you got to lift
Yeah.
the level, or you can.
You know, that's exactly how we live too.
Yeah.
And then we had to pass that on to the next generation. I have heard that and about Michael Jordan and the way he operated. And it does remind me very much of those great men that I was privileged to play with.
Yes. They're hard lessons, but they're lessons that stay with you, eh?
Yeah.
And if you can survive their lessons, then you can start your own lessons.
And you apply it in your life, in everything, work, business, your community work. Those things are really important because, it all comes back to being, again, faithful in the little things. And if you're diligent in those things and you tend to them, you get the big things. And that's why Michael Jordan was so great. That's why Fitzy was so great. That's why Zinni was so great. That's why Richie McCaw and Dan Carter, Bowden Barrett. You watch; they just tend to the little things, and the big things come. But they've got some natural gifting. But if they don't tend to the little things, it's a challenge. I always love to challenge our young people and young athletes. If you could have you could be the fastest, strongest, best sidestep, the best fend. But if you're not diligent with the little things, and there's a blessing in it. There's a dynamic and a principle in life. You'll be honoured if you do that.
Stevie Wonder says a whole lot of little makes a whole lot of lot. Coming from a blind fella, obviously that's pretty wise,
nice,
And then that's exactly what you're saying. Do all the little stuff plus the hard work, because talent will take you so far, but the hard work that you put in behind the scenes will take you to that next level. You see a lot of the young guys coming through, and there is a thing I heard that they call it the Rico effect, where obviously a lot of people think they're as good as Rico and they want to go straight to that level. But that's not the reality of professional football, is it? A lot of the Pacific boys come through with a lot of talent. They express it a lot in maybe the under-19s, or they come through the club scene, or the age groups. But they get to a certain level, and all that talent, it just isn't enough to take them to that next level, and they become very disappointed and disheartened. Are there systems in our? I think Kevin Senior's involved in something like that, where they're looking after the young Pacific boys and that are coming through the system and making sure that they're on the right path, making sure that they understand where they're heading.
There is such a need to strengthen that. I think there are things happening. You're right, Pat, and there are people doing some really good work around that. New Zealand Rugby, and I think Ronnie's role is very much got a part to play in that, and it's part of the why for setting up that Pacific Engagement Manager role, as to how do we do a better job and exactly that, engaging with our young Pacifica, walking with them, journeying with them, understanding the unique needs, I suppose, and the unique nature of our boys and girls, and then how do we then put in programs and initiatives and to support them and journey with them, and they need to be specifically designed for our unique needs. Really. And the Rugby Players Association do some good stuff, the Pacific Players Association, but we need to collaborate and collectively put a lot of more effort in that. I don't think it's enough. I think a lot of our boys are still falling through the gaps. I think a lot of there's still some, I suppose, cohort, there's a segment that are dropping out and disengaging and feeling lost in the system. And so we need to do more to make sure that we can cast that net wide, awhi and tautoko, and put scaffolding around them so they can keep climbing.
Still filtering through to club rugby as well, right? With
club rugby and
Colts level, with guys dropping out after high school, continuing to play.
There's a whole lot of these scary holes that they're just dropping through and you never see them again. And I even think of when I was coaching under 11s, 12s and 13s at Waitemata, and from that team, and we were a championship team, there's probably only one or two guys who are still playing Premier Rugby or higher. And then I think of the talent that was sitting out there in West, for example, just using these kids. If someone could have carried on coaching and working with them, they were mainly Māori and PI kids through, and it didn't help that, it's no discredit to schools that don't have rugby programs, but that didn't help that some schools didn't have rugby programs, and a couple might have gone to league, I'm sure, but those ones who just disengaged, and it's just wasted talent. It's a great tragedy of the wasted potential that sits out there. And then we know how good rugby is in the same way that we've been privileged, that it's helped us to, to pursue other things in life. The principles you learn, you apply in life, all of those good, positive things, these kids miss out on. And then they end up potentially going into the periphery of
Yeah.
our communities and society, and that's the sad story there. I suppose the influence of gangs.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot more of that, and you're seeing good kids potentially getting, because they come from poverty.
Yeah.
They're seeing the bling.
Yeah.
Social media portrays them sitting, standing next to Harley Davidsons
Yes.
and Range Rovers and
Yeah.
all the bling.
Yeah.
That's dangerous, and we
Yes.
see that the potential threat of that, and a lot of prospecting that's happening in the streets around our schools,
Yeah.
and in our coming into the schools. So
Yeah.
that's dangerous too. That's a very real
Yeah.
danger, and thankfully a lot of our kids are in good school systems where they'll probably do well. But you think about our kids who are in schools where they're really touching a lot of that world.
Yeah.
It's in the proliferation of gangs, the proliferation of easy money, prospecting.
Meth's having a big
Myths.
effect. Meth is having a
I
huge
think that's
effect.
a real strong force that that's going to challenge our ability to win the hearts and mind of young Pacific
Yeah.
men and women,
Yes.
particularly men,
Yes.
through rugby and other mechanisms.
And again, it's going to take a village to fight that, isn't it? Not just one or two people standing up and saying this is wrong. It's going to take a cohort of strong Pacific men like yourself, like Ronnie, like Jack, all coming
Like
together,
yourself,
and
Pat?
Okay, so-
like myself, and all coming together and saying, hey, this is not the path.
Yeah.
Choose another one.
Yeah.
Here's some options.
Yeah, and I think even platforms like this, when you can get positive messaging, and even if it inspires someone else to step out and take on a leadership role, or even start a program, or
Yeah.
start a mission field,
Yeah.
or start a podcast, whatever.
Yeah.
That's gonna
Conversation.
a conversation,
Conversation.
that's gonna challenge the thinking and inspire. Because it's a battle for the hearts and minds
Yes.
of our young people out there, and rugby is, this is one of the things that really drew me to put up my hand. It wasn't a natural thing to go into governance, but rugby has a vision to inspire and unify all New Zealanders, and I do believe in the power of rugby. It's got enough reach and influence to be that. And whether you're in the East Coast, and I was down there for Tangi and just seeing the power of rugby down there, it's still out of my club at Waitemata
Waitemata,
or
yeah.
university, wherever,
Yeah.
Ponsonby, Norths, Oriental Rongotai, Linwood, all these clubs have a role to play to reach particularly our rangatahi, and so having people like us who are going to understand that, and then how do you then design a program? How do you then develop it and then deploy it, implement it? And then I also talk about how do you defend it or protect it, because often when you do things, there's a lot of forces that can come against you to give up or stop or not even want you to do it, because there are those forces at play. So I think that's a wonderful challenge for all of us.
For sure. And the pathways to get involved is important as well, to say, come and join us, come on, let's fight this, Well, that's another example of what you're doing for our community, and you spoke about it briefly, was the food bank that you run. Nobody had ever heard of it. This is something that you just do as a person of our community, as a person who can do it, and just give out food parcels. I mean, it was highlighted on the news because Bowden Barrett and Patrick were delivering on your behalf, but this is something you did without, you don't want the acknowledgement, you don't want the exposure. It's something that you felt that you just do.
Yeah, it's always been for my wife and I too, and I mean obviously again, and we talked about that, you're shaped by your upbringing, and we didn't have much growing up at all, but we were rich in love. We were a big family. We obviously didn't have a father in the home, but so I have a natural heart for the vulnerable, I suppose, because I've seen that, and we've seen that in our communities, and we still see that in our communities, and so you sort of have that, call it a calling or call it a sense of mission, but it is a burden too, in a good way, because it grabs you and it sort of makes you not tarry or not to be idle, but then to optimize the window of opportunity you've got, time, energy, influence, even resource, connections, networks, but like what you guys are doing, and then how do you get all that to not only create a program, but then to drive a program.
Yeah.
So food bank is a good example. I mean, we sort of started that 10 years ago, my wife and I and some other community leaders. We had a heart for it
Wow.
as part of the village,
Yeah.
which is our trust, and that's all based on the kaupapa. It does take a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
So, but it was a natural, there was a need. It's a bit like what you see a need, there's a gap, no one's really doing that out there, so let's do that and let's see if we can get enough food to feed more people
Yeah.
that are in need, that just don't have enough food
Yeah.
on the table. And then obviously, I suppose you call it a once in a lifetime event comes along like COVID-19,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the stress on those who are already poor is even more so, and they become even more poor.
Yeah.
And then you get the new vulnerable, those who have lost jobs,
Yes.
redundant, made redundant, have a house, there's a mortgage, they can't pay the rent, they can't pay the
Yeah.
electricity bill, and then they can't pay food.
Yeah.
And then, but it's amazing, we've found with the food bank, because we love dealing with the families anyway, it's such a, it's sort of where the rubber meets the road, you get food to people, there's something really
Yeah.
powerful can happen in terms of the trust and the love and engagement.
Yeah.
No one's not grateful for that food parcel,
Yeah.
and it just allows you to also build relationships but most importantly, just see them get through that basic, crisis in their life where they at least they've got a bit of food.
Yeah.
And so COVID-19 has meant that we've had to really ramp that service up,
Yeah.
and even though we're out of lockdown level, sort of to where we are now. We are seeing a demand increase with more people losing their jobs, and
Yeah.
and the poor are getting poorer.
Yeah.
Because what happens in these times is the poor get hit first,
Yes.
they're the most vulnerable, and they stay in it the longest.
Yeah.
So this is a marathon; it's not a sprint,
Yes.
and we know that. So we just feel privileged, though. I mean, it's such a privilege, and we're just very grateful that we can serve in that way.
Yes.
And everyone's caught the different parts of the I suppose the field of service.
Field of service. Yeah.
And we just sort of got this little niche here that we've got to do and do well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. God bless you.
Thank you, Patrick.
It's so good.
Appreciate
It's,
it, bro.
it gives us hope in times where there's sometimes for some people seems like there is no hope. That we've got, much like yourself, BBM, Dave, is doing a great job
work.
outside.
Yeah, we love those guys.
We live I work right next door to Dave, so I see the
Yeah,
day-to-day effort that him and his team are doing. So
There's a lot of really good organisations and good people
yeah,
doing the best they can with what they've got.
yeah,
And it's no different to what you guys are doing.
yeah. There's a wee bit of time. We're just trying to get our stories.
There's more food.
Yeah. Alrighty, Jack. Anything in closing, my friend?
Oh, just what a huge honour to have you here, Sir Michael. You're an inspiring man, and how God has used you over the years, and may He continue to use you and bless you and your family. Just thank you very much.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
And my views on you, Sir Michael. You were my superhero growing up, and a little bit man
Still
fan
making
here.
me blush, bro.
Well, you deserve all the kudos that comes your way, and all the compliments, and all the World 15 teams that you're part of. I mean, character is judged not on stuff you do in front of people. It's what you do when you're by yourself that determines the character of a man. And your character is unblemished. You've been in the limelight for many years, and there's not one story of Michael Jones doing this or doing that. And I think that's real testament to your character and to your late mum and her bringing you up, sir. So, God bless her. God bless you. Thank you so much for coming in. This is it's like a dream for me, dude. Honestly, it's I know it sounds a little bit crazy, a little bit creepy, but I've been a fan of yours since '87.
Yes.
You were the man out on that field. Much like you, I didn't have a biological father, so I was always looking for role models, male role models to influence and inspire me. And
Well, I'm proud of you, bro. You've done really well, and love your family, and so the privilege is all mine. And honestly, and as I said, when I first met you, I know it was a while ago now, and I was just taken by your love and respect, and it's meant a lot to me, and so thank you, and and to Cuzzy here, to Jack. So
now you're making me.
It's been a privilege, guys.
It's been a pleasure. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time.
I love
know
it.
how important that is to you. good luck to your boy on Waitemata. I saw how happy you were last week when you managed to topple varsity. And to be honest, I mean, I'm a varsity supporter because of my boy, but I was happy to see how happy you were.
And all the best with Noah and your beautiful whānau too, bro. He's a great kid. That boy's got a great future.
Yep.
And so good he's pursuing his education so diligently too.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you
There's
very
the
much.
word, diligence, eh?
Diligence. So, in saying that, and now you've made me blush, sort of speechless, but as I always sign off, all love, no hate, whalaia.
Te wā.